To get started, we need to set up an environment to support the machine learning computations that we're going to do. This really means installing a set of libraries. So let's go through and get an idea of what they're going to be. Then we're going to go out to the command line and see how to do that. So here are the libraries that we're going to be using. We have SciPy, NumPy, Matplotlib, Pandas, and sklearn. So a lot of mathematical libraries. And to install them, we're going to use something called pip. So I'll show you what pip is. And it's just really like a package manager that lets you easily install all these libraries without having to go to every single one of the websites for the library and then install it in a real manual way, which is more tedious. So the command for pip is pip install followed by whatever the library name is. And you can do it this way one by one, or you can do everything on a single line. And this is actually what I'm going to do. And so let's go ahead and see how that is done. I'm at Google right now. What I want to do is just show what pip is all about. So I'm going to type in Python pip, and here we are. So Python package index, and I'm going to go ahead and click on this one, and this is at pypy.python.org, and then you have pypy again /pip. So you can download pip and install it. There should be a download for the operating system that you're using, and this will get pip up and running on your machine. So what we're going to do now is go on to the command line and see how this works. Alright, so I'm at the command line. What I want to do is pip install. So we're going to go ahead and do every library on the same line. So I'm going to have SciPy, I'll have NumPy, Matplotlib, Pandas, and sklearn. Now I have these installed, so if anything, it'll just do an update. So I'll go ahead and let that run. And you can see here, everything's already there. So yours will probably take a little bit longer. You'll see progress bars going across as it downloads and unpackages them and then installs these various kinds of libraries. So what you want to do next is actually get into a shell with Python. So I'm going to do Python, and you can see here that puts me into a shell. And then what I want to do is to import pandas like this. Now I can actually start doing various commands right here and start actually doing some machine learning right here. And next what we're going to do is a simple example, and we're going to do it right from the command line. Before we get started running any commands, I want to show you what we're going to be working with. And this is going to be the Iris data set. It's extremely popular. It's used for a lot of hello world type of machine learning examples. So we're going to use it as well, since it is such a well-known example and it's easy to follow along with what exactly it does. So what I want to do is type in Iris data set. So this is probably what you're thinking, Iris as in the flower. So this first one right here is fine. This is at icu.edu, and I'm going to go there. And here they're going to give you a little bit of information about what this is, and you can scroll down, you can read about it. So kind of basically to hit on a few points about this. So the data set that this is going to be presenting to us is very easy to understand for especially anyone new to machine learning. So that's one of the key things of using this, one of the key reasons for using it. Now it's a classification problem. So kind of learning it in the realm of supervised learning, it's a great introduction for general machine learning. Now, what we're going to be using if we go into the dataset folder is going to be this .data file. We're actually going to pull that in, and actually I think it's this one right here, but we'll see. We're going to tie the URL directly to it, and we're going to pull that in, and we're going to run our computations against it. So this data set, you can see here, is going to contain 150 observations of the iris flower. So that's what these number of instances are referring to. There are 4 columns of measurements of the flowers in centimeters. And so basically we have our 4 here. And there's a 5th column, which is the species of the flower observed. So all the observed flowers belong to one of 3 species. And in this next step, we're going to load the data from a CSV file or into a CSV file from the URL. So for the URL, I'm going to go up here to the top, and let's see, we want to make sure this is going to be it. So we have ML, then I'm going to actually do this, make sure we get a good comparison. What we want is this here. All right, so we're going to copy this URL right here, and I'm going to bring up the command prompt. All right, so this is where we left off. We had our import pandas, went into the Python shell. I typed in Python, I typed in import pandas, and now what I want to do is create a variable, which is going to be equal to the URL, and I'll end that with a quote. So I've got my URL in quotes. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. Nothing's going to happen, and that's good because there's no syntax issues or anything like that. So it's not computing anything. I'm just doing a variable declaration. What I want to do next is create a few, it's actually going to be an array with a few different names in it. So we're going to have sepal length, we'll have sepal width, and these are going to have single quotes. So I want to make sure I do have those quotes around each one. So what we're doing here, these are all the different columns that we're going to be doing. So the first four are the measurements of the flowers in centimeters. And again, that fifth one is going to be the species of the flower observed, which is going to be our class. All right, so the next one here is going to be a petal length, and we're going to have a petal width. And finally, we're just going to do the class. And should be nothing happen after I hit enter. Again, we're just creating a variable. So good so far. Now we can go ahead and start some processing. So I'm going to call pandas because that's what's going to do this for us, and say read CSV and the URL, and just going to do names equals names and close that out. Go ahead with that. Let's see, there is an issue. So the problem I'm running into, I'm going to bring this last line up, is because it should be names that I declared with this variable, but I actually don't have the S on it. So I then need to do something like this and take that S off, run that. And okay, so that is that. So again, there's no output here. There's nothing really going on. We're just sending information back into a variable. And basically what we're doing, the data set is getting loaded at this point. So we always need a data set that's loaded now from our Iris data. So what we're going to do with it is we're going to summarize this data using the pandas library. So we're going to look at it in three different ways. We're going to have dimensions of the data set. We're going to have statistical summary of all the attributes, and then we're going to have a breakdown of data by class variable. So let's start with the dimensions of the data set. So by dimensions, what I mean is that we've found out how many rows and columns there are in the data set. So let's look at what that is. We're going to do print. We have our variable data set, and we're just going to say shape. Hit enter, and there we go. So our 5 columns and then our rows, that's what that means right there. Now what we want to do is a statistical summary of all attributes, and basically it will show a min, a max, a mean count of values for each attributes. So to accomplish this, we're going to again do a print. We're going to access our data set, and we're going to say describe. Print it out. So there we have that. You can see our column names are there. And finally, we're going to do our class distribution. So this is going to look at the number of instances or rows, so rows are instances, that belong to each class. And we can view this as an absolute count. And so again, we're going to do a print and data set. We're going to say group by class and size, close off my parenthesis and print. There we go. And then our D-type prints at the bottom here, but we have the 3 there. That is basically all the 3 areas we were looking to do. And to summarize this, we basically did the dimensions of the data set, we did the statistical summary of all attributes, and finally we did our class distribution. And in this class distribution, basically what we're seeing here is that each class has the same number of instances. So there's 50 or 33% of the data set. So each one is a third, so that's where the 33% comes in. So what we're going to get into next is more environment build out. We're going to make use of Anaconda, which is really a bigger package. It allows for some graphical work to be done as well. So we're going to keep moving forward.